So I have a memory of Halloween that I wanted to share with you.
I'm listening.
So when I was little, I'm guessing I was around 6 or 7, maybe before your time.
Okay.
So in our house, as you know, but for the listeners' benefit, our parents weren't particularly interested in Halloween. They thought it was something that we shouldn't be partaking in for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't something that was around our house. Our house was never decorated. We never went out trick-or-treating. It was just not a thing.
That's true. Yeah.
So we used to see movies and TV and stuff, and the Radio Times used to change everything to be all spooky and whatever. So we had that.
Why did you say that? Spooky.
Spooky. I like spook. So there was a ring at the doorbell.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, our front windows in the living room looked out onto the driveway, and they were sort of half hexagonal.
Yeah.
So there were 2 windows like on the sides that were slanted, and one was straight.
Yeah.
So I asked who is it, and our mother said, I don't know. We're not expecting anybody. That's always their response. We're not expecting anybody, are we?
Very British.
Very British. So I went to the side window that was slanted that looked out towards the front door, and I saw a figure in a very, very frightening mask. And I quickly closed the curtain and ran away, and that image stayed with me, and it was nightmare fuel for a long time afterwards. Now, this could have been a kid. It could have been somebody not much older than me. I don't know, but in my mind I built it up to be like this freakishly scary figure.
Right.
So that is my memory of Halloween, aside from the movie that we're going to talk about. But do you have any memories of Halloween?
See, now that's hysterical because I often ask myself in the darkest hours of the night, what's wrong with Jonny? What happened to him? Right? And I think that we've just heard your supervillain origin story. Because
okay.
No, because I don't really have a Halloween memory, but I have memories of you forcing Halloween upon me at all times of the year.
Right.
I did.
I know what you're going to say.
I'm not going to tell the story.
I will give you the platform. You can tell the story.
Really?
Yeah.
You're
absolutely.
right with that?
Yeah, go for it. Because we're talking about
Scary
20 odd
spooks.
years ago,
Yeah, okay.
and we've grown up, and
I'm not over it.
I didn't say anybody's over it.
And I don't think that you're done rubbing your hands together gleefully over it. So,
well, I think that things that scare you also make you fascinated by them.
No, that's the reason to watch horror movies or to be invested in the macabre or to write short horror stories.
Well, that was the reason why this thing that you're about to tell happened. I was scared crapless of a lot of these different images that I saw when I was a kid.
Yeah, but you were a crafty psychological
I paid it forward.
Bastard.
I paid it forward.
You used to get into my brain, because here's the thing, there was a lead up to these things. Okay, so I'll set the stage for you. I want to say 5 or 6, right? Young. Okay. You're old enough to know better.
Right. I would have been 12 or 13.
Something like that. No, you must have been older then, maybe, because you went to the Harlequin to get this clown mask. That's where you...
No, the clown mask I got on the trip to Stratford-on-Avon.
So did you
Our
get
father
the
took me
scary, the Scream costume from the Harlequin then?
No, these were 2 different...
Jesus Christ.
These are 2 different occasions.
Okay, so there's... Okay, fine. You got this... Okay, so he comes back from somewhere. It doesn't really matter. Who cares? This is my story, okay? I'll tell it from my perspective. So we're in his bedroom, whatever, and Jonny sort of takes this thing out of a bag, and it's this grey latex mask with very big lips. Obviously there's no eyes because the eye holes, whatever, and tufts of hair.
It was freaky.
It was really
I want to give
scary,
you the background to that.
wrinkly.
So our father took me to a trade show in Stratford-on-Avon, right? That's the trip where we listened to Jasper Carrott all the way.
Right.
So he was into haberdashery, zips and threads and things like that he would sell wholesale to other businesses.
He wasn't into it. That was his
That was his job. That was his job, yeah. So he had a stall with all kinds of boring shit like that, and I gravitated towards the guy who was selling the latex masks. And for some reason, I don't know, extremely out of character for him, he bought me that mask.
This was something he was with you when you... But I don't believe it, because...
I was little. I was not like...
goodness.
I would say that I was... Look, if
12
the
or
thing...
13 then.
The thing that... No, but the thing that happened may have happened quite a few years after I actually physically acquired
I
the
don't
mask.
think so. But, maybe, but like here's what happens. So you take it out and you put it on your hand and you go, what do you think of this, Simon? And I'm like, oh, it's scary. And you're like, yeah, it is scary. And you like put it up on that shelf, like this very high up shelf, and it's like sitting there. It's like standing up, like upright.
Listen to how depraved this is. The shelf had all my soft toys on it.
Okay, hang on a minute.
So
okay,
the mask was
this
sitting...
is slightly more sinister now, right? And more worrying, because it feels like they're all sitting there scared next to the mask, right? Now, here's what happens. I'm about to leave the bedroom, and you go, oh, and Simon, it knows things. So then one night our parents went out, and I don't know, you were definitely old enough to babysit me. This must have been a few years later, right? And they're like, be good. They go out. You say like, not. You know, do you want to watch a film? And I'm like, yes. And you're like, anything you want, right? You're being the lovely older brother, right? Little did I know that you had something up your sleeve. And you're like, do you want to watch it in the dark? Right? Yeah, all right. And you put on, I don't know, like a film for me, whatever. And I'm sitting in the dark and I'm watching it. And suddenly I hear this, you know, thumping coming down the stairs behind me. And it's like... and it's like this grunting sound that you committed to this so well with the shuffling feet and whatever. Obviously, true horror movie fashion, I turn off the film and I go, hello? Right? Honestly, no survival instincts on this child.
You're going to have to give some geography here. The partition between the living room and the kitchen.
Right. So there's like a little bit of a gap, like a hallway between like the kitchen and the stairs area, which is where the ghoulish clown was coming down the stairs from, which leads into the living room. And if you go out of the living room into the kitchen and back through the hallway, that kind of creates a sort of circular thing.
Yeah, you can go behind the living room into the kitchen.
Absolutely.
Basically.
And Jonathan comes down the stairs, and after a few starts and stops with the movie, he really commits to this. And what you did next was, I thought, evil incarnate, was you just sort of stood there silhouetted against the windows that we've already mentioned. Mm-hmm. I know that it's you in the clown mask, but it had come to life for me, and you had your back to me, and you had like this sort of shambling gait that you were affecting, right, to complete the picture of terror. And, you know, I'm like, Jonathan, like absolutely terrified, shrinking back into the chair, and you turn around with this... and you like started chasing me around the house as me screaming, and then, you know, I ran up into my bedroom and like closed the door, and you're like going up the stairs behind me. So just so you understand, we're very, very good friends now. Wow. But he's going to get it back at some point.
Oh, I've got 2 kids.
I think you've had it back, yeah.
I every time you tell that story, that's horrifying.
The thing is,
I was
right?
A little shit.
The thing is, right? I can tell from your face that you are really upset with yourself, and you feel really sorry for me.
I'm highly uncomfortable. If my son did that to my daughter, I would be very angry with him.
What's our seat number?
Hello and welcome to What's Our Seat Number, the show where we ask questions like, what's our seat number? And others.
Lovely, that's great.
Okay. I'm Jonny Gross.
And I am Simon Gross. So why are you talking to me about Halloween?
Because it is October.
Oh, it is it?
It is indeed October. And tonight we have chosen a movie. We talked about maybe going for a horror movie. Mm-hmm. We talked about, perhaps doing something spooky.
Spook.
We chose Hocus Pocus.
I'm so excited! I love this film.
This is a great movie. It is in the grand tradition of movies like The Addams Family and Beetlejuice and things like that are kind of kid-oriented but have a certain darkness to them and a sort of black supernatural comedy, which I enjoy. Do you want to?
It's just so much fun. I have a lot, just for context, because we like to do, like we talk about like what our history is with the film.
Right.
But before we do that, I love this movie. It holds up really well. Like, this isn't like The Phantom where I haven't seen it for like lots and lots of years. Like, I do try to watch this like once a year.
Yeah, I try to watch it once a year.
It's just so fun.
But it has
so
been a
much fun.
very long time since I watched it with you.
Yeah, no, we haven't watched it together, which is what I think makes this very special. But I remember watching it in your... We've talked about this before, about how you had this TV in your bedroom, like above your bed, and we used to watch movies on that together. And I remember watching this in your bedroom,
right.
And loving it. And I also remember my earliest memory of this movie is at one of your birthday parties where they... you had a birthday party at our house where you watched the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
I don't remember that at all.
No, I do. And the reason I remember it so well is because I don't know if you ever have this, and I'm curious about whether people who are listening, if they have this as well, but you have a memory of a movie, and sometimes you still to this day, you have images of it, but you don't know what that movie is. And then one day you'll see that movie on TV, or you'll watch it with someone, and that memory will come back and you'll go, this is what that's from. And I remember the opening scene where, it's the credits and you see the witch flying over the water and over the woods, and you see her shadow. And I remember that being very sort of like affecting for me, and I remembered it. And then when we watched it again in later years, I was like, that filled in the blanks for me. So I remember this like from a very, very early age.
So I remember, I don't remember if I ever saw it on video. I think I did. I saw it on video first. We rented it, and that was probably the birthday party. But when I saw it again on TV, they had cut it so much to shit that there were things that just didn't make sense anymore. Like, continuity be damned. We're just going to cut this stuff because we're showing it before the watershed.
What is the watershed, for those who don't know?
Okay, so in the UK at 9 o'clock they would it was called the watershed, and that's when they'd start showing all the adult stuff.
Yeah.
And anything before that, for example, if they would show on BBC, they'd show Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which was already cut to shit by the BBFC on regular VHS. On BBC it would be extremely snipped up.
Just all the angry letters that you can imagine coming in from the parents.
Yeah, all the angry letters to Ofcom. And then they'd have Terry Wogan on Points of View. We had angry letters today to Points of View about the showing on BBC One of Hocus Pocus. Anyway, I actually sounded like Roger Moore just
a
then,
little
but
bit.
never mind.
But no, there was Wogan in there too.
There was Wogan. Hello, and
Hello,
welcome
Teddy
to
Wogan.
Points of View.
Pawns of View.
Pawns of View. Yes, Pawns of View. There you go. There's a new niche for you.
Love it.
Maybe
that's the show we should be doing. Really.
So the beginning sequence, they had the witches running towards the front door, and then they cut straight to the present day.
Yeah.
So the entire hanging sequence was cut out, and I remember going in the same way that you think about an image that you saw when you were younger and you couldn't place it or whatever. I always remembered the hanging sequence, and I was like, shouldn't there be something there? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, it is quite dark, and I remember when I bought this on Blu-ray a couple of years ago, and I remember thinking to myself, like, this is quite dark for a kids movie. And you just think about it, that like in the 80s and 90s, kids movies just used to be more, frightening, more violent, more.
But I'm just very happy that they committed to so much of what they did. Like,
right. I mean, it is rated PG. It's for older kids, but.
But it's dark, and it's also really funny, and there's so much layering in the performances of the witches. It's so fucking good.
They are also very individual. I think that each one has its own personality, like each character. I love that. I think they're brilliant, especially Bette Midler, obviously. But
we'll
the other two, yeah. So I was going to say something. Oh, we were talking about the watershed and whatnot.
Yeah.
Hold on.
That they were cutting things, and that and they cut the thing with the hanging.
Yes.
Didn't you finish that train of thought?
I did. There was something else.
Sure, this will get cut. We're fine.
We're fine. We're all good. Okay, so would you like to play the tagline game?
I would love to play the tagline game.
Okay, this is before we're going to go watch the movie. This is a new thing that we're going to do. We tried to do it the first time, but...
Simon didn't understand what we were doing.
Right. But this time I've decided to give you 3 options, and you are going to pick from those options which is the correct tagline. Now, I'm slightly buggered with this particular movie, and you'll see why in a minute.
Okay, go on.
We haven't done the intro.
We can do the intro when we go and see the movie.
But it's it's been 14 minutes, 15 minutes.
I'm sure they'll wait. It's like a Bond movie. Like, it's coming.
Okay.
Like, even if it hasn't happened yet.
Right. Okay.
In Stranger Things, sometimes they do it in the middle of the episode.
Okay. So I'm going to give you 4 taglines here, so that there's.
You said 3.
I said 3, but I'm going to give you 4.
Changed your mind. Okay.
Yeah, changed my mind.
As long as you're consistent.
Okay. Welcome to the witching hour.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
Okay. Spend the weekend with the girls.
Okay.
There's a little witch in every woman.
Okay.
Something wicked this way comes. Is any of that the tagline to Hocus Pocus?
Well, let me pile on for a moment, because I also came prepared for the tagline game. Now, there's nothing written on this piece of paper, but the viewers can't see me open up my phone, so for dramatic effect, I'm rustling a piece of paper so they think I've written it down. Right?
Page.
Now, I've come up with some taglines of my own, because I there's no way I'm going to remember all of those. I'm just going to muddle these in with the rest of them. Ready? Okay. Thou wouldst hate them in the morning. One night to take sweet revenge. Get it? Because it's Halloween and there's sweets. Lovely. Wicked witchcraft.
Oh, yeah, not so good, but fine.
These sisters are no act. Like Sister Act. Okay. They may be dead, but they haven't lost their touch.
Okay.
Some of these are good. What do you want
All
from
right,
me?
very good.
So one of those that you have is the real one.
Actually not. And I will tell you why. So the first one, welcome to the witching hour and spend the weekend with the girls, is the craft.
Okay.
Okay. The second one, there's a little witch in every woman, is practical magic.
Okay.
And the third one, something wicked this way comes,
I think I know that one.
The Witches of Eastwick.
Oh, no, I didn't know that one.
Okay. Now, the reason why I didn't give you the actual tagline is because the actual tagline is, it's just a bunch of hocus pocus.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And
At least I had the good decency to come up with some of my own.
Right,
they didn't even bother. They just took a line from the film.
Exactly. I was looking through, I was looking on the internet today, trying to find, and all of these other movies had like 3 or 4 taglines each.
Yeah.
With different posters, and this one just had the one. It's just a bunch of hocus pocus. So there was really nothing I could do. So yeah.
Oh, I see why you didn't say it to me, because I would have just gotten it straight away.
What do you mean you would have gotten it? The title is in the tagline.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, but also there's a little bit of misdirection there, because you could have put that in, saying, I'm just going to take the line from the movie, and I would have gone, maybe he's being crafty, so you could have thrown it in. No, I'm not that stupid.
No. I don't think so.
Thank you for the credit, though. I appreciate you giving me more credit than I gave myself there. Lovely, appreciate it. Okay. You're making up for the clown mask story as we speak.
Okay. So, I think we should go and watch the movie. What do you say?
Roll it.
Okay, so what did we think of Hocus Pocus?
I still love it. Brilliant. I'm very happy that we did that. That's like, I don't know, it just makes me feel happy every time I watch that movie. I laughed all the way through.
So that's what I wanted to talk to you about, because I think that there is definitely... It's not even an element of nostalgia, it's all nostalgia. Because there's a couple of things that struck me while we watched that. First of all, there is a definite Disney Channel feel to it. Mm-hmm. A kind of TV quality. And you know, like nowadays, TV and cinema are very... You know, the lines are blurred.
Okay.
But back in the 90s, I kept thinking about Erie, Indiana, mainly because Omri Katz was in Erie, Indiana. And that's also like quite, that's a nostalgia trip, because I'm sure if I watched an episode today, I'd be like, my kids are going to hate this.
Yeah.
It's definitely of its time. Similar situation with Quantum Leap as well.
Quantum Leap's awesome.
Quantum Leap is awesome, but there's definitely an 80s cheese to it that it's not up to the standard of today's TV. It's definitely, you have to have been there.
Mm-hmm.
Kneeling in front of the TV in the kitchen.
With your face pressed right up against it.
Yeah. Watching it on
Static,
Channel 4 at 6 p.m.
Stand up.
Yeah. That was the good times.
Mm.
So what struck me when watching this was that it's definitely not aimed at us.
No.
It's not aimed at men in their mid to late 30s. And it reminded me of the time when we went to see Enchanted. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And we were surrounded by teenage girls, and they were all looking at us, and we felt extremely self-conscious.
But we enjoyed that when we watched that. That was a fun movie.
But that was the thing. Your wife was sitting watching Hocus Pocus with us now, at least for the first 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And I felt self-conscious all of a sudden.
did I.
Because, there was no... It's like when you watch something... I'm a filmmaker,
Mm-hmm.
and Sai is a 3D graphic designer.
No.
Did I just say that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm a filmmaker. Go again.
Okay, so I'm a filmmaker.
What? Do you want me to say what I am? Are you having trouble with this?
I
Do you
don't
want me
know
to-
why.
You've fallen to pieces since finishing this film, haven't you?
Yeah, it's really affected me.
I'm a 3D artist. It's very simple.
Well, I don't know why I said graphic designer. I'm gonna cut this bit out.
Don't. Why?
Well, it's coming out.
Okay. So you were saying.
So I was saying
you were
that
self-conscious.
Yeah, I was saying that, like, as a filmmaker, when you create something, when you edit something, you put it together, and somebody else watches it, you've seen it 1,000 times, over and over and over again, and you believe that what you've done is the right way to edit it, and then you see it through the other person's eyes, and suddenly you start seeing all of the
flaws,
and, all the things that you could have done better, which is why you need to show your work to other people. But yeah, so when we sat down to watch this, I was thinking to myself, is she thinking that we're like, really immature for liking this movie? It's aimed at teenage girls.
It
I
is.
think even at the time it was aimed at teenage girls.
First of all, I don't agree. I think that it's aimed at whoever's going to enjoy it. And I think that...
it's a family film.
She's not... I don't think that she was judging us. She knows that we have a lot of movies that are based in nostalgia for us.
Which
so I don't
again
think she
reinforces
has,
the point that you had to be there.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how much of the... I definitely saw some things... It's not exactly, high art.
It's really different when you're watching a movie in the context of reviewing it afterwards, because you're using a different set of eyes. Like,
right.
I'm for the first time I was noticing a lot of things with the visual effects in the movie that I've never noticed before, but I have seen it as a visual effects artist before, so it's like really interesting when it's kind of like wearing the right hat, like when
right.
when you're looking at it in a more professional context, so you'll see different things. But to the point of, because you brought it up,
oh god, does this mean that we're going to start ruining movies for ourselves?
Well, again, I don't think that because
I didn't think about any of this stuff when I saw this a couple of years ago.
No, but you were talking to me about the Bond and Friends podcast and how it's ruining the movies for you to hear it.
Shout
out to them. Go have a listen. But I disagree. I don't think that there's anything ruined by it. I was watching Ghostbusters with Josh, my wife, and I'd said to her, like, I love this movie, and please try and like it, like really like the thing on her, and she.
It is a phenomenon because when Mich, my wife, watches something that I dearly, dearly love, and she starts ripping it apart, it really affects me.
So that's what I'm saying, is that I stopped us, I think about 25 minutes into the movie, because I could just get the vibe from her that she wasn't enjoying it. So, like,
the Phantom I can understand.
No. But what I'm trying to say is that when something is of its time, you cannot expect somebody else to enjoy it in the same time capsule way that you do.
Right.
And the same way that when you're watching something that's in that time capsule with a different... I feel like I'm saying capsule wrong. Capsule.
The time capsule.
I know, I said it funny. I don't know why. It's completely thrown me off.
That's a very, very niche reference there. That's Day of the Tentacle for anybody
Time capsule.
anybody that grew up in the 90s.
That's why I think I'm saying it weird. Yeah, so basically when you then take that thing that you're looking at it with a critical eye, so I don't necessarily think that it ruins it. I just think it's it's a very interesting thing to go through, but
To go through. It's not exactly like...
No, like it's an interesting experience. Like
Right.
it's a thing that makes you sort of experience the movie in a different way. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But also I knew that she wasn't gonna like it because it's just like not her thing.
Right, okay.
So the beginning is I think I love it because it's a great like introduction to Bette Midler and the like just her the way she comes out she opens the window and she goes, another glorious morning.
So that's the thing. We open up in the 16 somethings, right?
Yeah, exactly. 300 years into the past.
Right. Okay, so maybe not. The 16 somethings. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
60, you were right. You had it.
Yeah. Okay.
You're good.
Oh, I'm good. Okay.
It's 11 o'clock at night. We're tired. Anyway.
Shit, is it 11 o'clock
It's
at night?
11 o'clock.
Fuck me.
Yeah, because we did an intro and then we
Well,
watched the
this is
movie
the only
and
time
had
that
to
we can
fuck
do
around
this. We
watching
never
making popcorn.
watching popcorn.
This is going to be great. I can
Yeah.
feel that this one.
You
this
said
one's
you
gonna
said
be
you
the
wanted
one.
to be drunk for this, so maybe
I didn't
we should
say I
be.
wanted to be drunk. I said that we should drink.
Right, and that's a desire, is it not? That you
Indeed.
desire
No,
to
I
drink,
meant
therefore
I
be
didn't want
drunk.
to be drunk. I just thought that we should drink and see how it
So
improves.
drunk.
Drunk. Anyway, back on track.
Yeah, so we open in the 16 somethings,
Yeah.
and the design of this movie, it's all sets obviously, but I love the style. I love that kind of Sleeping Beauty kind of old witch's house in like the cottage in the woods.
The design of that set is fantastic. I really like it, and there's character all over it. They said that the guy who was in charge of it said that they actually built the house,
Right,
like something like that. It's like just really interesting to me that instead of just building the interior bits that they're going to use, he was like, you could actually take this house and put it on a hill somewhere and you could live in it. And then he added, I think at the end, they're like, if you're not normal. Right. Actually, I thought it was really funny. But I just really like that they did that because it just adds that extra layer of, like, I'm not at any point going, this is on a soundstage.
Right. But it's like it's heightened. I really like that sort of thing. And the music that accompanies it, John Debney's music. I'm not sure that I could hum it, but while you're watching it, it gives you that feeling of that sort of supernatural black comedy kind of feeling.
Very
like,
Addams Family.
Addams Family, Casper, that kind of thing. That sort of like it's supernatural, but it's safe
And it's fun.
and it's fun. Yeah.
Like it's a twinkle. I like to sort of think it's like a twinkle.
it's very Tim Burton-y, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I think Danny Elfman probably pioneered that kind of thing that's sort of somehow been in the same way that adventure music has a very specific feel to it, but it's somehow been identified with that genre. It's kind of a subgenre as well.
If you've already brought up like the Addams Family and Tim Burton, is that just for frame of reference for people who haven't seen this movie and don't really know when it came out, it was in 93 and it was the same year as like Nightmare Before Christmas and Addams Family Values and other movies of the ilk.
Right.
So it's like if you've seen those movies, like it's just the music does have a very similar vibe to those as well.
Right. It also reminded me of The Frighteners, which came out a few years later.
Also a very good film. We should do that on one of these.
Yeah.
Because that movie still scares the pants off me. Just
Really?
So you know. Yeah. I find serial killers to be particularly creepy, and the guy who plays I can't remember his name, but
I believe it's Jake Busey. Yeah, it's Gary Busey's son.
He's really, really creepy, and he's got really creepy eyes.
He's Gary Busey's son.
And just like it just terrifies me. Anyway, onwards and upwards.
Right. But that also reminds me of Frequency as well. That there's like a very dark stretch in that movie. That there's this whole thing about that they're talking that the son and the father and the son. The father's died in a fire in the 60s, 70s, and the son in the present day that's sort of been able to tune him in on a radio, and he's talking to him in the past, and then this whole story of like how their mother died unfolds with this serial killer going around in the 70s like killing nurses, and that like the movie itself is a little bit vanilla, even with that plot, of the sort of the time travel plot. But then you get to the serial killer part of it, and suddenly it comes alive. Yeah, it's really creepy.
I find that movie also to be very affecting, but neither here nor there. The thing that I wanted to talk about was just how like sucked in I was immediately. Like it's really easy for me to slip on this movie like a pair of slippers. It's just like really, really comfortable to sit down and watch it. And as soon as the sisters start bantering, like I'm in it. It's just got a lot of those things that are very familiar to movies of that time. And like I was thinking in the scene in the present day where he's riding home on a bike. Right, and you've got that music that's actually very, if we're already talking about music that's typical amongst movies from that time, or throughout movies, it sounds like a kid riding on his bike music, like there's
right. That's what I was thinking that as well. I was thinking that's very 90s. It also reminds me of Jumanji, like the beginning of Jumanji, when Alan's riding home. It's very, very similar kind of.
I was trying to remember what other movies there are that are like that, so it's really interesting that you say Jumanji because I didn't bring it up. It didn't come to mind. Before we move on to the
before you go there, I was just gonna say.
I was just gonna say.
On the subject of nostalgia, I'm very interested to watch Monster Squad with you, because that is a movie that for a lot of people is the horror movie that they watched when they were kids, because it's sort of borderline. It's kind of PG-13, but there are some scary bits in it, but it's also very much aimed at kids. So for a lot of people, I think mostly in the States, because I don't think we had it in England. I don't think it was very successful in England, and even if it was, I think it was rated 15.
But I haven't seen it.
Right.
All right.
I've seen it. I only saw it like recently.
For the first time?
For the first time, yeah.
Interesting.
I bought it on Blu-ray because I have this thing about collecting 80s movies. But like we didn't grow up with that movie, so it would be interesting to... I have my own views on it, but it'd be interesting to hear what you think.
Oh, okay. So put that on the list.
Yeah, that's on the list.
So I know that this is gonna sound silly, but I really like how dark the opening of the movie is. It's peppered
with comedy though.
It never goes over the edge,
right?
But like there are some really dark things going on there, like first of all,
they're murdering a child.
They're murdering a child, and by the way, when all of the villagers come knocking on the door, the child's hair has gone grey. Like, I don't know if you noticed that, but they cover her body up with a shawl.
I vaguely remember that I had seen that before, but I didn't notice it this time because I kept pulling out my phone to make notes.
Right. So her hair had gone grey, and I was like, they literally just like sucked her dry, like aged her, like, and that's they sucked away her youth, and that's really dark for the beginning of a Disney movie. Like that's really, really dark. And I love it. Like I really like that, and I love.
I think that kids' movies should have a streak of darkness to them. That if you watch, this is the thing. I'm much more conscious of it now because my son is 3.5, nearly 4. When I choose something for him to watch, I'm very sensitive to it because I know that he wakes up in the middle of the night having nightmares about the fact that Mummy tried to bath him,
right?
And that's a very base level right there. Once he starts to see things, these images that are really fucking scary, then he's going to be waking up in the night screaming about that. So I don't want to give him nightmare fuel. But I'm, a lot of the Disney movies are extremely. There are certain things in there that I'm like, no. I don't want to show that to my child. I don't want you to see this. Avert your eyes. And it's a Disney movie. So, when he gets a little bit older, I think that it's healthy. It's healthy to get.
Well, I wouldn't show this to him now, but like I'm thinking like about, and I was thinking about this because last week when we were talking about No Time to Die, we were talking about the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing from the Page Master.
Yes.
And
that was the mug, by the way.
That was the mug. I wasn't farting. I can't replicate it, and that's part of the problem. Is that like now I can't prove it.
But these are highly sensitive mics. He would have had to literally get up on the chair and stick his butt in the mic.
Which would have been a neat trick had I done it whilst I was trying to say something.
Yeah, exactly.
I've completely forgotten what I was going to say.
No, I just had Jim Carrey talking out of his ass kind of image in my
Fantastic.
head.
I'd like to ask you a few questions. So
Yeah.
I thought there was an interesting thing that came up in my brain when we were talking about the Page Master Dr. Jekyll thing, is all of the different movies as a kid that used to scare me, or, you know, I was afraid of things like Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman. I was very like obsessed with that, and that would scare the crap out of me. I actually remember that the first time that we watched that together, and it was actually, I think, one of the first real proper horror movies that I watched.
But even then, it's not like a real proper horror
No,
movie.
but for me it was.
Right, how old were you?
I was 13. I hadn't like really watched.
I remember
anything.
you watched it from behind a cushion.
No, not.
What was that?
I don't remember, but it wasn't Sleepy Hollow.
There was a movie that you watched from behind a cushion.
Was it Scream?
Really? I showed you Scream?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
The point is that I was thinking about this, and I was like, would I trade in the fear of those movies, like, to not have them anymore for anything? And I'm like, no, because I think that it's really, really healthy for you to have that kind of jolt. It's really good for you.
It's safe fear.
Yeah, I think so. It's not like actual scary things, like, you know, that trailer that you sent me the other day of the stranger coming out of the van and Ethan Hawke kidnaps someone.
The black phone?
Yeah.
That looks absolutely awesome.
It does. And the thing
I
is
really
that
want to go and see it in the cinema.
the beginning of that trailer where, you know, Ethan Hawke comes out of the van and obviously kidnaps this kid,
right,
is terrifying to me as an adult with a child. Like, that's real scary stuff, right? That is that. So this is like fake scary, and I think it's okay for children to be scared of this. But the beginning of the movie is really dark. I think that all three of the leads are in that scene as well. This is when they're being hung. It's so funny.
We were talking about this during, which is why we should at some point do a watch along, because it'll just save this part.
Yeah.
But Sarah Jessica Parker, I never really paid attention, but she's absolutely brilliant in this movie.
She is. She's electric, like all the way through.
She's got the comedy bone,
Yeah.
which I mean, Sex and the City, fine, but I don't see that she exercised that slapstick muscle as much as she does in this movie.
I think she was just super excited, because from interviews, she was just really excited to be working with Bette Midler. Like they say how excited they were to work with her, and I think that also Kathy Najimy says in one of her interviews that she worked that into her performance. Like, you know, you can kind of see it, how she's like,
right,
you know, at the beginning she's like, I'll take this for you. It's very heavy. You're being busy. I'll take this. You know, she's like being very sort of like sycophantic and
right,
you know, whatever. So I think that's like it's really, really cool that Sarah Jessica Parker she's always looking at something or reacting to something. She's never just standing there, and I know that's what she's supposed to be doing, is acting, but she's always in character. Like I never see Sarah Jessica Parker. Like, it's really interesting just like how into it she is. But all three of them, also Bette Midler, is really funny.
So
in this
that's
movie.
the thing. I was it's interesting. You know how they talk about chemistry?
Yeah.
You know, between actors, that like if an actor's in a relationship with another actor, they have zero chemistry on screen or whatever it is. But I can tell a lot of times when an actor isn't into what they're doing. For example, Daniel Craig in Spectre, he's bored.
Yeah, okay.
You know, and Sean Connery in You Only Live Twice, he's bored. You know, there are certain places where I can sort of put my finger on it and go, okay,
and they're phoning it in.
That one doesn't want to be there. But reading up on this movie before we watched it, I saw that Bette Midler was extremely, like, she really enjoyed herself playing this role, and she couldn't wait to come back and do it again for the sequel. So that colored my experience of watching her in this viewing, because you could tell that she was really relishing chewing that scenery with those big buck teeth, you know, like really hamming it up.
She did such a good job. I just like every delivery, like you were talking about how towards the end, like her accent kind of slips, and I'm like, I don't really care.
It's not slipping. She's doing it on purpose. Yeah. But I'm trying to figure out, like, I mean, aside from the joke, I was trying to figure out why logically she's doing it, because there are a lot of very intricate details that are woven into this silly family movie.
Well, the way that I read it was that I'm sorry, I was going to say the way that the way that I read it is that she's sort of getting to grips with the time that she's in.
Right. I mean, there are a few plot holes and logic lapses in this movie. Just a couple. But I only noticed them because we were looking at this movie with a critical eye, and I've never really paid any attention to it before because I'm just having too much fun. I don't care. And sometimes that's okay. I mean, we were talking about how the light fluctuates at 5:00 in the morning in the final act. That it's morning and then suddenly it's dark again and then the sun comes up and
it's like as
Lion King-esque sun coming up.
Exactly, the camera flies over the rooftops and you can clearly see that the sky is like turning that early morning blue.
Yeah,
and and then like as they burst out of the house, like I'm gonna say 15 minutes later, not in the movie but in their time, just like the full moon is up,
pitch black,
full darkness.
Yeah.
So whatever.
But there's a discrepancy of that in the beginning as well. She says it's another glorious morning, and then it's night.
Then it's like nighttime, and all the villagers have arrived. Now I'm not really willing to believe that it took them a whole day to brew a potion, but I'm not a witch, so what do I know?
True. But that was another thing I was talking about earlier about my wife, ruining certain things for me. That we watched Die Hard. First of all, disclaimer: Die Hard is one of her favorite movies now.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I say, "Do you want to watch a movie?" she's like, "Die Hard." I'm like, "Sweetheart, we can't watch Die Hard again. You can't watch it every single night."
What's wrong with you? That's not the answer you give to "Shall we watch Die Hard again?" Die Hard every single time.
Well, we have watched it many times together. But she pointed out that because there's a static backdrop behind Holly in her office that is perpetually in sunset mode.
Yeah.
So the sunset in the beginning of the movie goes on and on and on for about 20 minutes.
That's a very famous gripe, though.
It's a famous gripe. I'd never heard of it before she brought it up, and I've never noticed it before because I don't care.
I've heard it brought up several times.
You know what they say: if you notice it, it serves you right.
Right.
No, like because you're looking for continuity mistakes, and then who's to blame that you can't think of anything else when you watch that now, because that's what you're noticing. But yeah, I mean that has ruined that opening for me. I mean, not ruined it, but I'm aware of it.
I don't think that the stuff with the time discrepancies in this movie really bothered me that much. It's just something I noticed because obviously I was paying attention to it.
Right. No, but I guess I've got to take into account that if we're going to dissect these movies, then they're going to get dissected.
See stuff. Yeah. But just to point out, even though we're criticizing elements of it, we really do like this movie. I really enjoyed watching it.
I mean, it's out of affection for it.
But I'll tell you what really bugged me was the bullies, because they were...
You mean Bebop and Rocksteady?
Yeah, so...
It's a 90s staple.
No,
it's also in
laugh.
Power Rangers as well. It's the same thing. I don't know where that trope came from, but it just kept coming back and wouldn't fucking go away, would it?
The blonde kid, the laugh is just too much for me.
I love that bit where he says his name's Ice, and then he points to the back of his head. I just love that.
Ice. What was I going to say? I just think that the bullies are a little over the top, and I think maybe that was a consequence of Shosh sitting next to me. Like, again, like, watching the movie through someone else's eyes. Like, his laugh is probably annoying her, right?
Yeah, we have to learn to tune that out, I guess.
I think we just have to say to her, bugger off. In your own house. Fuck off. I really like the book. I know that this is going to be it's going to be kind of weird, but it looks very plasticky, but the animatronic eye and the way that it like opens its eye like really sleepily, like every time it opens the eye.
It reminds me of the Necronomicon.
Yeah, and it's bound with like human skin, but if you look at the spine, it's all fingers. It's like the spine is fingers.
Oh, I'm going to have to look at that again.
Yeah, and I was like...
Hold on 1 second, I'm pulling it up on Google Images.
Okay. No, but it was just one of those things that I noticed, and I was like, the design on this movie is like, there's a lot of things taken into account.
That's what I was saying, it's very intricate.
When you look at the present day version of the Sanderson house, right, and they go in there's little things like, the fact that there's like a stand with all these lighters, right, is like, it's a museum exhibit.
Yeah, it's fingers.
It is fingers. But what I was saying is that I was just going to say the
Do you want to explain that just so people?
We've been listening to the Bond and Friends podcast a lot. Shout out.
So I just got a hearing aid, and my hearing aid, I've got only like 30% hearing loss. It's not such a big deal, but it improves my quality of life. So my hearing aid is Bluetooth enabled.
He's basically the bionic man.
Right. So I'm so my wife doesn't know when I'm listening to a podcast or not. So I'm always like walking around with somebody talking in my ear, and she says something to me, and I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Didn't you just get a hearing aid? You're supposed to be able to hear me."
Yes, but I'm using it.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I've been listening to these podcasts on a loop, and I'm noticing all of these things.
So whenever it's like these, it's usually about 5 people, and they're all talking about a Bond movie, and they're all giddy, and they're all excited, and they've all got all this trivia that they want to get out, and sometimes they cut across each other, and when they do, they go, "Sorry, I was just going to say," and it's like, it's almost like they've all coordinated it ahead of time. It's so polite, it's so very cordial. Anyway,
Very British.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
that the Sanderson house, when it's, you know, in its museum form, is covered in cobwebs. They've got this stand with all the lighters on it, and the broom cupboard, the postcards. They've got a broom cupboard with like a Hoover and, you know, other stuff, more modern like things, and it's all really well thought out, and I really like it, and it's it just goes to show that they took some time to think about it.
I love the gag with the Hoover. I love it.
I do too. But
the way that it like pays off at the end.
Yeah.
With the,
more
the
soda
cord.
for me. Oh, thank you.
Soda.
Lovely.
You know, a little bit of ASMR for you.
So basically, I'd like to jump just like ahead to when they brought the sisters back, right? And we first meet Zachary Binks.
Thackeray.
Thackeray? I meant Thackeray.
Yes.
But it always sounds like, because they've got these teeth, or she's got these, it's Thackeray. Sounds like she's saying Zachary. Thackeray. Oh, I'm sorry, you've got your little notes in front of you. What were you going to say something?
No. I'm
Have I disturbed you in the middle of it?
No.
Because I mean, I'm talking and you're just sort of you're reading it. Can I leave you two alone?
No. You go ahead.
Oh, thank you. No, it's just like I just really love how they introduced that character. You know, the cat. Like, I forgot about him because, you know, they enchant him at the beginning of the movie, and then later on, you know, he comes back. And you know, you just forget that that's a thing, and then suddenly the cat jumps on them, and it's like, you know, nice going, Max.
Right,
it's brilliant.
Yeah, he was dubbed. You know,
what do you mean he was dubbed?
He was dubbed.
It wasn't a real cat talking.
No, I mean the no, because I always found that the kid playing Thackeray Binks when he's in kid form. His
Thackeray Binks.
Thackeray, yes, that's what I said.
I know.
His mouth movement doesn't always match 100% because he was dubbed by another actor for some reason. And that's very strange because it's not something that really happens. Well, I say nowadays, but also in the 90s, it never really happened.
Just interested as to why. You find out and you tell me.
I think it was to do with his accent, but that's why I was checking my notes.
Was he German?
I thought I had it written down. No, he was American, but he the guy that dubbed him over could do a slightly more British accent.
I see. Not a very good one though. So
no, but
good enough. But you know, on par with.
Well, probably better than Fear Street Part 3.
I actually haven't seen that yet. It's on my wish list.
You haven't seen
Netflix.
Did you watch any of them?
No.
Ah, okay.
I'm on it. Don't worry.
Okay, so check it out and tell me what you think.
I will. It's Halloween month. I was saving it for the darkness and the fear.
Very good. I watched Malignant the other day, which was absolutely fucking bonkers. But we'll get to that another time.
I really want to watch that as well now. You've upset me with the bonkers thing.
Why have I upset you with the bonkers thing?
Because it makes me go, what does he mean by bonkers? Now I have to watch it and think and see if it's actually bonkers or if it's maybe a bit bananas.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Speaking of which, the dad jokes in this movie are fantastic.
It's Dadula.
Brilliant.
That guy, by the way, that's what I was looking up, by the way.
Go on.
When we were watching the movie. It's the guy's name is Charles Rocket, who plays the father.
That's a great name.
Right. He passed away in 2005.
Oh dear.
Yeah, but
wait.
I realized.
Moment of silence. Okay.
Sorry, are we done?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I realized where I know him from.
No.
He's Nicholas from Dumb and Dumber. He's the guy that's the main bad guy.
Oh my
Right?
fucking god.
That blew my fecking mind.
He
An
is,
actor acting in more than one thing. Who would have thought?
Okay, kill him. Brilliant.
There you go. Tick. I can tick
Diddly
that one
diddly
off.
diddly do. Oh, you know when Sarah Jessica Parker eats a spider?
Yes.
She eats a spider.
That was an actual
It
spider.
was an actual spider.
Okay. That's why you were...
That's why I was like... Because I'd read it.
Right.
And then when
you
I saw it, and I was like... like the crunch. It's just gross. But amazing that she did that. I just think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, we were talking about it just a minute ago about, she really goes for it. She does.
She apparently was so comfortable on the broomstick that she used to fall asleep up there.
In the harness,
In the harness, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. No, because everybody that's always talked about being in a flying harness
They
always
hate
says
it.
it's uncomfortable and...
Yeah. That's really funny. I want to go look for that now.
You wanna talk about some trivia?
Go on then.
Okay. Trivia corner. The animatronic cat would later be used in Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I did not know that. Interesting. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Salem.
Black cat.
Black cat. Yeah.
Yeah. All good.
Got any more?
Ew. Okay. So so this is I read all this before we saw the movie, but now that I've seen it, I'm kind of grossed out by this. Doug Jones
Is this
said-
the moth thing?
Yeah, the moths were actually real that came
Yeah.
out of his mouth.
So I actually have a little bit of trivia on that one for you.
Okay.
So the moths basically what he had was some kind of compartment. That's maybe this is wrong, but like I watched a video about him and his makeup and all of that thing. Is that he had like a compartment inside the mouthpiece,
Right.
where the moths were sitting. So I don't think
Because
he
he
had.
also
I
had,
don't
like,
think
a-
he had a chance of swallowing them.
He also had like some latex over his lips as
Yeah,
well.
he
'cause
did.
of- yeah.
And so he cuts it open, and then the moths and the dust, they come out. He actually did that, and everyone on set was really impressed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like that, and Jessica Parker eating the spider is like
Right. But
yeah.
when we talk about Doug Jones for a second, Doug fucking Jones.
I wanted to. I've written here in my notes. Doug Jones is brilliant
He is the man.
as always. He's
For anybody
just-
who doesn't know, he's Guillermo del Toro's go-to
Monster
guy
Man.
for monsters. He was the Pale Man and the Fauno.
in
Fauno
in
Pan's
Pan's
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth.
He was Ape
He's
Sapien.
in Star Trek Discovery
Star Trek Discovery, right?
as Saru,
Yeah.
well now Captain Saru.
Oh,
Spoilers.
spoilers.
But like
he's all the ghosts in Crimson Peak.
oh, he is all the ghosts in
Yeah,
Crimson Peak. That's right.
Uh,
So, but he's just, here's the thing. Forget about roles where you can't really see him, right? Like as in
oh, the Angel of Death in Hellboy 2.
those ones. You can he gives each one its own character, but
Right.
like in a movie like this, where he's not really playing a monster. Like he's playing a monster, but he's
playing
also
a corpse.
he's playing a corpse with character that turns out to be like an ally towards
Right.
the end. So he really does sort of tread an interesting line between sort of bumbling and falling over and whatnot, and also being kind of like a little creepy and also really fun. When
He's an
towards the
incredible
end.
performer.
And I just think that his physical comedy and his physical performance is like that's the thing. He's a very physical actor. He's brilliant.
Right.
I just think it's great, and there's all sorts of stuff there that when his head gets knocked off, so it's actually a female stunt woman inside the sort of headless corpse suit. It's not actually
Cool.
him, which is cool. Crawling around on the floor for the head, which I think is really cool. And speaking of things like that scene in the graveyard where they bring him to life, the wire work there it's all the wire work is really, really good, and it's actually those three actresses on the wires, and
Right.
apart from certain, I don't know if you want to do like CG corner or VFX corner,
So-
but like I have
so
a
yeah.
lot to say about the VFX, and I can either do them in order or we can do them like.
Okay, so I have it
all at
written
once.
here that this was the first Disney production to use digital effects. Do you want to elaborate on that?
So it is. Here's the thing. I always get a little bit iffy about people saying that, and I know that the guy who worked on it in an interview says that it's like the first time that Disney is using CGI. But it seems to me that every time I watch a behind the scenes of a movie in the 90s, they're going, "We're the first movie to use CGI."
So the thing is, Disney did use CGI in Beauty and the Beast, and that was in 1991.
Yeah.
But that's an animated movie.
So here's the thing. What they did is Thackeray Binks is a cat, and they had like 19 different cat actors, little cats that did different things. Like there were ones that could, sit on the kids' laps. There was ones that were good at jumping, ones that were just good at running, that could sit up still and look in certain directions. They had all sorts of different cats, and the kids each time had to get trained in how to work with the different cats, but
That's like their own trailer.
you couldn't probably
Because
Hollywood.
they're very haughty creatures. You're not a cat person, are you, Sam?
I'm really not a cat person. I feel physically sick when I'm in the room with a cat because I have allergies to them.
I wanted a Thackeray Binks though.
So did I when I was a
Actually,
kid.
now
but
that I
wanted
think
a
about
cat
it-
that could talk.
Now that I
That's the
think
thing.
about it, it's got an immortal child in it.
So no, thank you very
maybe,
much.
Maybe not.
Mm.
Yeah.
Also, a child that's mid-puberty from the looks of the beginning of the movie. So
Yeah.
anyway, moving on. So the thing about the CGI here is that they had to find a way to make the cat look like it could talk, and this is by no means the only movie that will use CGI to replace an animal's head. In the
Homeward
Doctor
Bound.
Dolittle, Homeward Bound, Doctor Dolittle, and all the
Right.
movies that have this, but they're all using a very similar technique, which is head replacement. Some of them actually just remove the mouths, but what they had to do is they had to match moving is where you take a 3D element and you match its movement to the movement of the actor on set, or it's also known as tracking. But the point is that why it's so impressive is because, yes, it is one of the first instances of a movie doing this with live action and, on top of a live cat, replacing the head with a CG head, which, by the way, has to have correct-looking fur. The fur has to react to the lighting in the same way that the cat's underneath it is, its fur is reacting to the lighting, and it does usually do that. But the thing is that it's a little bit wobbly at times.
Well, of course. I mean, it's a technology in its infancy in the 90s. In '93, I mean, the Jurassic Park was they were discovering that as they went along,
Yeah.
and they were really shocked that it looked as good as it did.
And there's some things here that look really, really good, and there are some things that are a little bit off that kind of kill the vibe, which is the cat's head is a little bit stiff in most of the shots where there's a head replacement for the cat. Which is any shot where it's talking. So the head is very stiff, its neck isn't moving as much, and there are some shots where it is, but those are the ones where you can really see the seams.
I would imagine that there are some shots that they would have used the animatronic cat from the aforementioned.
Yeah.
Cat.
So there are some shots where you can see that they're
You
using
have a little
that
bit
cat.
more control over the movie.
But overall,
how would they have done motion tracking in 1992, 93? Because nowadays, you go into After Effects, you click track, and it tracks the movement.
So also in 3D programs like Blender, what you would do is you would set up your footage, and you'd sort of say, here's where the 3D camera is, and you're tracking points on the footage. And basically what that does is the computer's doing like an algorithm where it's figuring out where those points are throughout the shot. Meaning it's tracking, X, Y, and Z space throughout the course of time. And, those tracking points are usually, sometimes if you see like in a movie that a character has like dots on their face, that's usually
in
so
behind
that they
the
can,
scenes, not in the
or
movie
in
itself.
behind the scenes, sorry.
Hopefully not in the movie itself.
Or,
someone's getting fired.
If you see a soundstage with pluses made out of duct tape, or X's, those are tracking points because they are of high saturation and contrast. Thank you, that's the word I was looking for. High contrast, and those are what's used to create convincing tracking shots. I'm not sure if this is interesting or not, but the point is that
no, but the point is it would have been really, really hard.
They
think
had
about...
to do it using a lot of handcrafted work, and from the looks of the few behind the scenes shots that I've seen of them doing this, there's a lot of like figuring out of maths, like algorithms. Like it looks like they're doing that stuff themselves. So it seems that 3D artists back in the 90s had to have a much different skill set from someone like me who has no mathematical genius whatsoever.
Well, I feel that way also about shooting on digital. That I shoot onto cards, and it's the lighting is very different. You see what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You're able to preview it, and shooting on film. Back in the day was probably extremely nerve-wracking because you didn't know what it was gonna look like.
Yeah.
You had to be very confident and very
proficient.
knowledgeable, and about lighting and about the film stock and about the camera you were using, etc., etc. Whereas nowadays, most people don't even give a second thought to that kind of thing because what you see is what you get.
Exactly.
But it just interests me that. Probably at some point we're going to do Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
And I
have
remember
so much to say about that.
So
not even a joke.
I remember seeing some behind the scenes about how they originally wanted to do every shot with an animated character locked down.
Yeah.
And then they decided, you know what? Why don't we move the camera? Let's move the camera.
How in the
hell did they do that in 1987?
Richard Williams, who is the animator on that movie, I really won't go into it too much because I don't want to take up a lot of time on this. But just to answer the question of he was the one. They were like, oh well, we couldn't really move the camera, and he was like, yeah, you can, because we can kind of figure out what we are supposed to be able to see these 2D characters in 3D dimensions, 3 dimensions when we draw them. And he's like, I think there's even an interview with him where he says, it's about not being lazy. It's hard work. It's a lot of hard work, but he's like, it can be done, and he freed up Robert Zemeckis to do what he wanted to do.
Right.
So there's a lot of
you had
really
us lock down the camera for our movie.
I know I did, but that was not because I was lazy, but I was just not proficient in what I was doing. Nowadays, I would say do what you want and I'll work around it.
Right.
But you still would have to work within the constraints of what I can do, and also
the issue is that our DP refused to lock the camera down.
Yeah, well, I ended up doing a lot of camera tracking for your movie as well. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think there was a single shot where I didn't have to track the camera. Even apart from the shot with the factory in the background, the CGI factory that I had to put in, that was locked down. But there were a lot of shots where there was supposed to be it was supposed to be locked down. But that was because I was just very, very new to it and very nervous about the amount of time that I had to figure out the stuff that I had to figure out.
It was also quite a big deal that we were doing that many effects.
Yeah, and that there was actual CG and compositing going on.
Right.
But I digress. The point is that the CGI head replacement doesn't quite hold up, but it's really, really impressive for the time. And if we're already talking about like VFX and stuff like that, I love the lightning effects. It's so difficult to make that look
CG,
good.
or is it an optical?
I think it's an optical, and I think it's hand drawn.
You can see the contrast and the colors change when they layer pieces of film one on top of each other.
Yeah,
and obviously the
sure
clarity, the detail gets a little bit washed out.
It's not CG, but it is visual.
I love
effects.
that stuff. It's the Emperor, the Force lightning.
It's VFX, and but it's got that Disney animated look to it. Like when she when Winnie,
the shadow in the on the trees in the beginning.
Also,
yeah.
She does this thing where she does you there, right? And she's lightninging him across a room. It's a word. And she does this thing where she very lazily like zaps him one more time.
Right.
And if you were to watch that frame by frame, you see that there's like a lens flare that like comes out of her, and that's hand drawn, and it's like very well done, and the rest of the scene also lights up, and it's like I guess that they're fake. They fake the lighting somehow with that. Like nowadays, if you have like some kind of visual effect, not nowadays, just anytime you're making a movie and you're doing visual effects and you have something that would affect the scene. Do you remember in the in the Dream Factory, this is Jonny and his wife Mich's short film that I worked on. I had us putting red lights.
Yeah.
Because we wanted the red.
So we wanted it to look like a magic pill floating in a jar.
Exactly, and
so we suspended
we would have...
with clear plastic wire.
Mm-hmm.
These little LED lights inside the jar.
Exactly.
And then he'd paint out the wire and replace the.
And what was so cool about that was that the light refraction that you would get
obviously
inside of the glass was actually happening, right? So I think that there's also some instances of like gun flashbang, like you have like the muzzle flash,
right?
And so they light up like the actor's face or something in post, right? So, I think that they lit up the scene in post a little bit. I'm not sure, that's a guess of mine in this movie. But there's some really cool stuff, like, like little sparks flying off when it hits a character. It's really well done. You can just tell that there's like 2D animation going on here that sits really well within the scene. That's my opinion.
Right.
There's like some bum smoke effects, like in the movie.
Like coming out the chimney. Yeah.
But other than that, I feel sometimes when I
want to buy a book for my child. Yes.
I love how Winnie, when she comes out of the oven, right? she's speaking French. I want to buy a book. So funny.
So I was doing some reading, and I found some really intricate details that they put into this thing. For example, the teacher in the classroom kind of makes fun of him for his tie-dye shirt.
Mm.
Okay, and apparently the tie-dye are the same colours of each of the witches. Green for Winifred, purple for Sarah, and red for Mary.
That's brilliant.
That is
really interesting.
It's interesting, but it's also very obscure. And it's the kind of detail that the production designers and prop masters and or prop mistresses and costume designers put into these things that are it's the kind of thing that you wouldn't notice unless you're looking for it, but it still gives that sort of extra dimension. And also the fact that the stitches keeping Billy's mouth shut are sewn in the pattern of XIII, the Roman numerals for 13.
Oh, cool.
And I didn't notice that while we were watching it, but I'm reading it here now.
That.
Indeed.
Trivia corner. That's really cool. I love that. I love that there's like those little things woven into it. I did think that there was a bit of a story fumble towards the end of the movie, because we were just talking about the oven and how they burn the witches in the oven in the high school,
right? In
the kiln, and I thought it was a bit odd that they knew that the witches were going to the high school, or that the witches knew to go to the high school, because that's where children are.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was a little bit weird. Like they play for laughs a lot of the way through the movie that the witches aren't of this time period, and therefore everything freaks them out. Like when the firemen come, they scream,
right.
and the bus driver comes, he's like, ah, it freaks out.
But then you mentioned something that I'm never going to be able to unsee,
which is
the microphones.
Right. Yeah. So in the big musical number, I Put a Spell on You, the witches come up on stage and they start singing. And Sarah and Mary are singing backup into microphones. And I said to Jonny, how would they know what microphones do? But like, again, you have to let it go, and you have to.
No, but this is all bullshit. It's not.
It's rubbish. Yeah. It's absolutely rubbish. The one thing that did take me out of the movie, the only thing that took me out of the movie, and maybe you'll laugh at me for this, was the lecherous bus driver.
Yeah.
It bugged me. I was like, I don't think you could get away with doing that in a movie today.
You couldn't get away with that in the movie today. And we, as we said, we're listening to the Bond and Friends podcast, and there's somebody on there called Lisa. What's her name? Lisa Funnell, Dr. Lisa Funnell, and she talks about all of these different connotations that you obviously you have to take these movies as part of the time that they were made in.
Yeah.
And it's very important to take them in context. But she talks about how, the connotations of the various sort of lecherous acts and the, Bond forcing himself on women, etc., etc., etc. It's very, very interesting. I highly recommend you check it out if you're into Bond, and even if you're not.
I think it's just a very well put together podcast, but she makes me think about a lot of things, and also, I have...
So what I would say,
I've become a lot more aware of this stuff recently.
Yeah.
Because
I think everybody has.
Yeah, no, sure, but like it's just one of those things that really took me out of the movie.
Right.
The things that he was saying and the way he was saying it, and also how they, just didn't bat an eyelid.
But that's what I'm saying. If I was just going to say, if Dr. Lisa Funnell was here, she would probably say that that the women in question were never in any danger because they are powerful.
Yeah, witches.
The issue is that he never gets any sort of comeuppance or anything like that.
I don't think that he's necessarily an evil character that needs to comeuppance.
But it's something that you see in a lot of movies of the day, and also recent movies as well, which is why people are starting to crack down on this kind of thing. But yeah, it's something that he can be lecherous, and he can and just sort of get away with it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it there's several problems with it, just because, okay, well, this is what we're saying, a bus driver is like, but I think also, I think I really like what you just said about, her, them being powerful, and, they were using him, which is, really interesting. What we desire is children, right? And he's like, I think I could...
It's also quite an adult joke for a kid's movie.
Yeah. It'll take me a couple of tries, but I don't think that's going to be a problem.
How many times do they say the word virgin in this movie?
A lot.
Yeah.
But also, that was another thing that took me out of it a little bit, was that, they go to a guy who's, it turns out, is just dressed up as because it takes place on Halloween, he's just dressed up as a co-op. And, there's like this moment where, it's like, I'm a virgin and I lit the black flame candle, and, the witches came back, and then he takes him aside and he goes, "Are you really a virgin?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Really?" And it's like, you're talking to like a 16, 17-year-old kid here. Like, you wouldn't, like, I don't know. Why are you encouraging him? Why are you telling him that's a bad thing?
Right, but that was the thing. I'm not sure if this movie was necessarily the culprit, but there was definitely, in my school, there was a lot of shaming about that kind of thing.
What, being a virgin?
Yeah, and I don't think people really understood necessarily what it meant. I mean, they knew what it meant, but I don't know. I think that media and movies and TV of the time really, especially like you watch things like Seinfeld and Friends, where these characters, no matter how ridiculous they are and how repellent they may be, or even abusive in some cases, that's played for laughs. They're having sex all the time. Every episode, Ross is taking out another girl.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a thing that in school that you had to, if you weren't a certain type of cool person or jock or whatever it was, that you'd always get made fun of. That no girls going to want to touch you. I mean, I would say that there's definitely issues with. Not something that I would have necessarily noticed then, but now in hindsight, that people get influenced, and people definitely use it as bully fuel.
Yeah, I think that it's always going to be that push me pull you between the whole, okay, well, how is this going to affect how kids see it, and how will kids react to this, to we have something that we're trying to do and we're going to do it, right? Like the art versus the consequences of that art. Right. But I don't necessarily think that they had to drive that point home so hard that he's a virgin. I think that they had it happen when he lit the candle, and that was kind of enough to let us know that he's actually a virgin.
Right. It's not something that I've ever really thought about. And I also didn't think that when we were talking about this movie that we'd bring up things like this. So it's very interesting.
I wanted to ask you something in the spirit of wrapping this up. Yeah. So you watch it with the lens of nostalgia.
Right.
But do you recommend this to people listening to the podcast? Do you recommend that they go and watch
That's
the
the
movie?
thing. I have a fog. I have rose-tinted glasses. I have absolutely no idea if somebody else is going to like this, which is why we got self-conscious when Shosh was sitting next to us. You know, it is a silly family movie set at Halloween, but I mean, there's the nostalgia of it. There's that sort of Amblin suburban dreamscape, especially if you're a kid without very many friends, living in London, with parents most likely not as cool as the parents depicted in the movie.
And parents who leave their kids alone while one of them is a psychotic sociopath.
Callback. I always dreamed about living in that kind of neighborhood. You've got the sort of autumn leaves. There's a similar kind of scene in Big. Actually, in a lot of movies that I used to watch growing up, that in Big, you've got the scene where he goes back to his childhood home. He's still a child, but he's watching his home, and he's watching the kids playing in the park, and there's all these like autumn leaves all over the ground, and you know, it all looks like very beautiful and very pastel, and so I always enjoyed that. I always liked the Halloweenness of it all, because we weren't allowed Halloween at home. In the same way we used to watch Christmas movies because Christmas was banned. You know, we grew up in a Jewish household, and it was always considered to be, you know, not Jewish enough or at all.
Jewish.
Yeah, no, bad. But like it's something that that for some reason my dad thought it threatened the Jewishness of the household, and I don't really understand why. But anyway. So I always used to dream about living in that world. So in that respect, it's like slipping into a dream. It's you know, I think most kids my age had a crush on Vanessa Shaw. And I'll save you some time, dear listeners. Most of the movies that we talk about that have leading ladies that I used to watch when I was younger, I probably had a crush on them. There's a good chance. So yeah,
I think that all the way through the movie he's going like, I had a thing for that. It's a little bit of fun. I think it's all right every once in a while to kick up your feet and watch something that's maybe a little bit silly. It doesn't have like, you know, all the continuity that you want. You know, there's a few like lapses in logic, but it's just a bit of fun and it's a bit of a laugh.
Just a bit of sport, Miranda.
Just a bit of sport, Miranda. And I just think that, you know, I definitely recommend this movie to people. If you're in the mood for a Halloween movie that's a little bit lighter than something like an actual horror movie, like you want something, you've just watched Addams Family and Addams Family Values, and you want something with a similar kind of flavor to it,
right?
Watch this movie.
It's that kind of dark comedy kind of thing.
You know, it's that same kind of whirlwind of, you know, fun and silly and darkness and you know, that thing that takes you back to when you were 8.
I actually went to Salem with Mich when we were in the States. And we didn't really have a lot of time there. But a lot of those exterior shots, Alison's home and the high school and things like that, were actually shot in Salem. And I'm fairly certain that there are quite a few, you know, the rest of it is mainly sound stages and probably shot in California or whatever. But we went to the Witch Museum, which was very interesting. It's basically a bunch of sort of Madame Tussauds style mannequins.
Oh, really?
You sit in the middle of the room on a bench, and it goes around the room. So the spotlight's on the first scene, and there's like a voiceover and actors like you know, sort of acting out the roles, you know, in voiceover. There's no actual like physical anything. It's just static, and it talks about the Salem witch trials and that kind of thing. It's incredibly cheesy. I think it's been there for a very, very, very long time.
I really want to go see it now.
But it is awesome. I loved every second of it.
I really want to go see that now.
Yeah, I just wanted a little bit more time there so I could go around and see the Hocus Pocus locations, but we didn't have the time.
I'm really glad that we watched this movie. It always puts me in a good mood. Thank you for coming and talking to me and watching a film with me. I always enjoy this. Please tell us what you'd like us to watch next, and we will try and listen to what you're saying. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks for listening.
This has been What's Our Seat Number?
And I've been Jonny Gross.
And I've been Simon Gross,
Good
a
night.
3D artist.
not a 3D graphic designer.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
What's our seat number?